The Friend. When I was a boy, my mother, a woman of unusual strength, corrected me for the trickery that I often did with my childhood colleagues. When I became a teenager, my behavior worsened. My mom then decided to enroll me in the same school where she taught as a teacher so that she could accompany me and correct me when necessary. I didn't want to leave the elite college where I studied and go to a school in the suburbs. I tried to make my father an ally and put him against my mother's attitude. He vehemently disapproved of her decision and was also opposed to her dedication to teaching in a place far from our home. However, she was steadfast in her good purposes. She loved to teach, especially the needy students. Until my father, so consumed in the direction of the factory, put that matter aside. I believed that the classmates at the suburban school were inferior to me, and when I had the opportunity, I made fun of them with offensive jokes. Mom, making sure of my bad attitudes, advised me firmly but with affection. My son, do not humiliate your colleagues or anyone. Obey, my son, the orders from the heart. Don't leash insane thoughts and rude acts. Only you will lose if you continue to make mistakes in this way. One day, during the break between classes, she called me and sat with me under a tree and spoke to me intently. My son, I'm going to quote you a beautiful passage from the Gospel of the Apostle Paul in his letter to the Corinthians. I want you to reflect on these teachings to be used in your life. Pay attention. Even if I speak the languages of men and angels, if I don't have love, I will only be a bronze that resonates, a bell that rings. And even though I have the gift of prophecies and know all the mysteries and all the science, even though I have such a high degree of faith that allows me to remove mountains, if I don't have love, I will be nothing. Even if I distribute my goods among the poor and then let the fire consume my body, I will not profit if I do not have love. Love is patient, it is kind. It is not at all demanding, arrogant, proud. It is never impolite. It is never self-interested. It does not irritate. It does not hold a grudge in its heart. Everything excuses, everything believes, everything awaits, everything supports. Love will never end. Poor mother, I hardly knew that despite all her efforts, the kind words for me to change, I thought that reading had nothing to do with me. I spent all my adolescence with mixed feelings between my inferior nature, the sensible orientations of the dear mother, and the examples of honesty and dedication of my father. I saw myself in a great inner conflict, indecisive in my choice. Sometimes the desire to do good aroused in me, but suddenly I fell into recalcitrant errors. When I turned 18, I ardently wished I had a motorcycle. Dad decided to attend to my insistent requests and invited me to go together to choose the desired motorcycle. Mom tried to interfere, exposing my father that I was not mature enough to drive a vehicle, especially a motorcycle. However, this time I knew how to use all possible arguments to convince them. I mentioned that I was already a man, I was changed, and I had obtained my driver's license. I swore I wouldn't drive fast, and I would have all my attention on driving. He fully believed my false words and presented me with a shining new motorbike. However, my mother I was not able to deceive. She was disconsolate and apprehensive about that powerful vehicle in my hands. When I was driving on the streets with my Honda, when I came across any car in front of me, I had an uncontrolled urge to overtake. Until they told my mother about the dangerous way I drove in traffic, she was very worried. Mom then decided to look for a friendly lady who was very cultured and studious in the Spiritist doctrine and asked for her help. The friend said willingly, "Your son is an immature spirit, but he has a love for you and his Father within him. Trust God and Master Jesus that he will one day change due to this love." I remembered the story of Augustine and his mother Monica, who were canonized by the Catholic Church. They lived in Algeria in Africa. Augustine was a rebellious young man who caused Monica great concern, reason for bitterness, and many tears. Even his mother giving him good advice, Augustine insisted on errors in his conduct. At 16, he left home and took the path of addictions. Monica redoubled herself in daily prayers and went to ask the bishop for advice about her son, and he said, "Continue to pray, because the tears she shed will not be in vain in the recovery of your child." Augustine sought to escape the watchfulness of his distressed mother. On the sly he embarked for Italy. Monica, wishing at all costs for her son's recovery, she traveled after him. Anyway, Monica got the result she was looking for after so many prayers and advice given to her son. Augustine was transformed. He took a new direction in his life in search of spiritual teachings and became one of the greatest icons of the early Christianity. That story left Mom more serene, yet more alert. His warnings to me were constant, every day of my life. One evening, at dusk, I saw Nelson, one of the few friends I had made when I studied at the school in the suburbs. He was returning from work, and I said to him, "Nelson, are we going for a ride on my powerful bike? However, if any pretty girl shows up, I want you to get down quickly, because with this shabby outfit you will spoil any flirt." Nelson had a great sympathy for me and knew how to deal with my lack of character, and he said to me in a hilarious tone, "Boy, girls will prefer me over you. I'm handsome even in old clothes." Nelson sat on the back, and we rode to the central square where there were some girls who were talking happily. I thought, I'm going to pick up a play on Nelson in front of the girls. I stopped the bike and accelerated by prancing on one wheel. I looked back and saw Nelson sprawled on the floor and burst out laughing. However, I was surprised by a driver who opened the door of his car, and I crashed into it violently, being thrown in the middle of the asphalt. I felt a terrible pain in my back, and I was immobilized on the floor. Frightened, I saw when a truck approached towards me and I would inevitably be run over and certainly die. Suddenly, Nelson exposed his life at risk. He ran from where he was, and in a jump he pulled me quickly by one of my arms, and for seconds he pushed me away from the wheels of the heavy vehicle. Before I lost consciousness, I saw Nelson's face hurt, and tears well up in his eyes, sympathizing with me. It was him, my dear friend, the one who since high school had suffered my bad games and who had just saved my life. Unfortunately, after that accident, I suffered a spinal injury and stayed in the hospital for months. I came home in a wheelchair. Very indignant, I did not want to live with other people except with my parents. Several times, Nelson, my friend, wanted to visit me, but I refused to receive him. I wanted to be alone. Not even on my own porch, I did not want to be there, so that no one would see me in that state. My parents took me to many renowned specialist doctors. However, there was no cure for my case. No money would make me the same athletic young man as before. Seeing me so disguised, my mother said that my life had not ended with that accident, that I could do 1,000 useful and pleasant things. However, rebellion and ingratitude dominated me and brought many inferior feelings to the surface of my being. I did not repay my parents' constant love and dedication and only filled my time with the virtual world, where I stayed until the wee hours of the night, amusing myself with banal and trivial things. One fine day, Dad invited me to work with him in the management of the factory. He said that my physical problem was nothing that would prevent me from being useful, that I was capable as I had always been intelligent and observant. Mom, wishing for me to wake up, she said strong words to me. Work ennobles the soul and brings great opportunities, opens new horizons in our life. Leave this virtual and futile world and roll up your sleeves, and you will not regret it. On the contrary, you will be just grateful. Unfortunately, after a few months, Mom left for the spirit world, which made me very homesick and disgusted, for she was the light of my life. I suffered a lot from her absence until I decided to obey the advice she had given me and replaced my father in the direction of the factory. Dad was very happy because he needed my services. With my dedication and competence, our company prospered as never before, but I made a serious mistake. I had no regard for the employees of the factory, as if I wanted to take revenge for what happened in my life. On one occasion, Lenita, a young worker who worked as a maid, spilled coffee on my shirt. Despite the full awareness that it was my fault, because when I turned my arm abruptly, I bumped into the cup. I humiliated the young woman, drawing her attention with offensive words, and she was very embarrassed. And as much as she apologized, I ignored it. At night, in my room, I remembered Lenita's desolate look, and I felt great remorse. I remembered the words about love spoken by the Apostle Paul that my mother had once read to me, and I tried to be more polite to the employees from then on. Time passed, and I dedicated myself more and more to the factory's business, to the point of having no distraction. In addition, I did not eat properly, did not worry about doing any medical checkups, and slept little. One morning, in my office, I was so dizzy with weakness, I fell out of the wheelchair and hit my head on the floor. I screamed for help, and it was Lenita who came to me promptly, asking for help from other employees who also helped me and called Dad, warning him of my accident. I was taken to the emergency room at the public hospital. As I was, I had no strength to demand anything. I stayed on a stretcher in a corridor under Lenita's attention. She talked to me, giving me strength in that difficult moment while I waited for assistance. She told me that her father worked there as a nurse and would ask someone to call him. My weakness was so great that I only saw a man dressed in white approaching, and I passed out. A long time passed, and I woke up in the infirmary with Dad by my side. He told me that there were 2 people outside wanting to visit me. "Call them, please," I said to Dad. To my surprise, Nelson appears with Lanita. He told me that his youngest daughter, when she entered the factory, did not want to reveal her paternity to me. I was even more touched by the character of the girl. They hugged me lovingly as they were happy for my recovery. Tears streamed down my face with emotion. I thanked Lenita for all her help with me, and I took advantage of it. And I sincerely apologized to her for the event some time ago. I looked at Nelson and said that he was a true friend, and that I did not deserve such appreciation. One day he had saved my life, and now again he's present with me with his daughter. Dad was happy with my move, and I saw great emotion from him. At that moment, I felt my mother's spiritual presence perfectly. She enveloped me in a loving embrace, and I heard her words that reverberated inside my mind. Dear son, put love in your life as the Apostle Paul so wisely spoke to us, and be a new man as exemplified by Saint Augustine.